Hi, kids. Welcome to the show. Great to have you with us. And here at STL Sports Central, we are presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker. How you doing, man? You okay after the Mizzou defeat at the hands of Texas A&M?
Well, the fun part is that we're not going to talk about it. We don't have to talk about it very much because there's just so many other things in the local sporting world, because obviously the Cardinals are going to make a lot of big signings coming up. Sure. As we know, the GM in the winter meetings, that's where all the action happens, especially
the GM meeting starting today,
especially in a season when no one's going to sign until February. So a lot of things are going to be coming up in baseball. So we got a lot of Cardinals news that, again, they're going to be so active this offseason. We can talk about that. Blues they're killing it right now. Can't wait to talk about their success over the weekend.
They really overcame a lot of the demons that they had last year. And that's one of the things that I like to see, is that
the basketball teams are playing teams that I've definitely heard of. You tell me, I know a lot about Virginia Military Institute. I do know a lot about Lindenwood. But overall, I didn't really know that much about Chicago State until I started covering the Billikens. Don't know much about Virginia Military Institute, who the Tigers played last night, their second game in 3 days. But anyhow, just so much else to talk about. We're not going to have to focus on Eli Drinkwitz in the future of the Tigers, potentially for the next decade or anything.
Well,
oh crap! I just read the sidebar.
Oh,
seems like we're going to talk a lot about it.
There we go.
Suck.
So the Tigers lose, and people are up in arms over the Tigers losing to the number 3 team in the country. Tigers started a freshman quarterback making his very first start. Okay, Matt Zollers. He was 19 years old, doing so against the number 3 team in the country that happens to play in the SEC and very well could be the national champion this year. Now, granted, I will grant you that a very good Mizzou defense got leaned on by a very talented Texas A&M offense. And we've talked about this before. Yeah.
Has that been a short way to describe any other Mizzou games this season? Very talented defense getting leaned on by a talented squad.
Not to that extent, no.
You don't think so? I mean, no, not to the point spread extent, but felt a little bit like parts of the Vanderbilt game and a lot of the Alabama game.
I thought the defense played great against Vanderbilt.
I thought they did. I just think they were eventually, though, when the only thing you have to reply.
Didn't they only score 17 points?
Yeah, but when the only thing you have to rely on is the defense playing perfect, the one or two bad plays are always going to stick out more. And my point is that if the defense gets any more help from the offense in either of those other 2 games or any of these 3 games, Mizzou's 2-1 or maybe even 3-0.
See, and there's your issue. Your big guys. This whole sport starts up front on the offense.
Hidden and urine.
Hidden and urine. Yep. Take hidden, beat urine. Take urine and beat hidden. You remember when we had Dan Deerdorf on the radio show, and he said his favorite thing was to in the fourth quarter. Have his opponent, if Dan wanted him to move left, he moved left. If Dan wanted him to move right, he moved right. If Dan wanted him to move back, he moved back. That is what an offensive lineman wants to do. That's what was happening for the Texas A&M offensive lineman against Missouri on Saturday. And it's the opposite of what was happening for the Missouri offensive lineman against Texas A&M. Let me give you a statistic that's kind of fun here. Well, it's not fun if you're a Mizzou.
I was going to say, describe fun.
Yeah.
Interesting, intriguing.
It is interesting and intriguing. And it's about the ability of a team to lean on the opposition. And here we go. And this happened. Remember the Georgia game a couple of years ago when Mizzou was in it in the fourth quarter?
Oh, yeah.
And the Georgia was able to lean on them. Okay, so I know this is going to sound like there's too much there, and there might be, but I just want to give you an idea, and I don't have a font. So here we go. In the first quarter, the Aggie offense ran 22 plays for 95 yards, 8 carries for 9 yards, 8 running plays for 9 yards. Okay. Second quarter, they ran 14 plays for 53 yards, 8 carries for 14 yards on the ground. Okay. So 8 carries in the first quarter, 8 carries in the second quarter, total of 23 yards on the ground. Third quarter, A&M, after their coach, Mike Elko, told his lines, hey, go out and dominate the line of scrimmage. Third quarter, they run 14 plays for 149 yards, 7 carries for 81 on the ground. And then after they kind of softened up the Mizzou defense in the fourth quarter, they ran 18 plays for 167 yards, 16 for 139 on the ground.
So in the first half, that's what, 5 or 6 yards per play. In the second half, it's 10 yards per play and 9 yards per play.
So the carries went 8, 8, 7, and 16. The yards went 9, 14, 81, and 139. And that's what big physical teams can do to a team that is not prepared for, and they can never be prepared for a physical game like that. And there are schools, hey, yeah, even when Jimbo Fisher was at A&M, they were always a top 5 or 10 recruiting program. Alabama does that. They beat Missouri that way. Georgia does that. They've beat Missouri a lot over the years. It's just the way it is, and it's the way it has been. And until Mizzou starts getting those big guys that are better than the other team's big guys, the sport's all about your big guys being better than the other team's big guys. Until you make that happen, it's not going to happen for you. One other quick point, by the way, in regards to softening up a defense, Ahmad Hardy, as you know, probably had a 40-yard run on the first play of the game. 3 carries for 44 in the first quarter. Did not touch the ball in the second quarter. Did not. So how's he supposed to get into a running rhythm? How's the offensive line supposed to get into a running rhythm for Hardy if he doesn't see the ball? Now, Roberts, to his credit, did pretty well. He got 10 carries in the second quarter. And then they had a pretty even split. It was something like 10 and 7 in the second half. And Hardy had another big run for a touchdown later. But it seems to me that if this team is going to have a successful game with a freshman quarterback making his first start, they have to run the ball, they have to commit to the run, and they have to use their best running back.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. And I know there's important factors in maybe some of the carries at some of the points. You know, I think it's fair to say that it looked that like Jamal Roberts was doing a better job picking up those third down blitzes. He's a better receiver out of the backfield. Anyone's a better receiver out of the backfield when Matt Zollers isn't gunning it in like Mason Wynn. But that's another thing entirely. For me, it's less about which running back they're using and more about just like the overall timing and commitment to the rhythm of the offense. Because Jamal Roberts is running the ball well. For me, I mean, a couple of those carries, a couple of those like 7-yard carries that Roberts has, and I know maybe this is getting too in the nitty gritty, but a couple of those 7-8-yard carries that he got were on 3rd and 10. Where for some reason Kirby Moore was just capitulating the drive, and that's something I'm not seeing a lot. That really weirded me out. Is it wasn't just the overall blandness in the play calling, because I think maybe that's too oversimplified. Maybe we don't know enough to really comment on that. But for me, the situational play calling of just run or pass. I mean, there were a bunch of those runs that were against soft boxes at bad times when Texas A&M wanted them to run and get 6 yards because that's the easier route for them defensively to get off the field. For me, my big thing that I want to criticize, or my criticism for the offense is, and this goes back all the way to the South Carolina game. So the one thing we saw from this offense in the first 3 games of the season that we have not seen really in any of the last 5, except for maybe the non-conference game in there, but none of the SEC games they've played. What happened to the consistent short game? What happened to those little 6-yard curl routes that Coleman was eating up yardage, giving you a 2nd and 4, or eating up 2nd and 8 and turning it into a 3rd and 1. I know they didn't have Norfleet, but getting the tight end into the flat and actually hitting him for a little 4-yard gain. Those routes just have never been part of the offense in SEC play for some reason, and it's hampered the offense in the rhythm of the offense against South Carolina, and it doomed them against Alabama, and it doomed them against Texas A&M because it takes Kevin Coleman out of the offense. He had a big game against Bama, but he had 1 catch against Bama and 1 catch against Texas A&M. As much as we want to talk about the running game, at different times they got that going. You can complain about which running back got the ball. They were not putting the ball in Kevin Coleman's hands and points for him to win. And that's one of the things that Drinkwitz talked about, where he didn't put the team in a place to win.
That is fair. And he fell on the sword, which he should have in that game. Now, I know there's a lot of people that are down on Eli Drinkwitz. Guess how many coaches in the history of Mizzou football have had back-to-back 10-win seasons?
I believe that there's 2 of them.
There are. Gary Pinkel did it twice. And Eli Drinkwitz in 23 and 24 with an 11-2 season and a 10-3 season.
And my favorite thing about that is too, If you go ahead and if you're on that Mizzou football comp, you go ahead and sort by wins really quickly. You're going to notice something, which is there is only one person in the history of Mizzou football who has ever hit 12 wins, and that is Gary Pinkel. And my point is, it's just like there's not a long storied list of head coaches that Drinkwitz is like, well, I mean, Drinkwitz obviously isn't this guy or this guy. It's listen, he's taken this program to a new level,
and I think he maximized it.
And I think that's our big discussion point today, which is, for me, you're probably going to hear two words today a little bit too much on the show, but they're going to frame the conversation, and that is ceiling and floor. And I think those are important words to be used, because there's no doubt in my mind that, much like Gary Pinkel, those guys are the only ones who have back-to-back double-digit seasons. Pinkel, obviously, those 12-win seasons and things like that. Those two guys raised the floor of Mizzou by a ton. Mm-hmm. There is zero doubt about that. But now I think the questions come into your expectations about that floor, whether or not you see that as being complacent, and where do you see the ceiling of Missouri football? And before we get into that, I do want to get a little bit more into this game, because we have some of the post game from Drinkwitz, and a lot of people are reacting to that. Before we do, let's hear from Keith Adams here in the YouTube chat. Randy, I have news for you. The fans know what that was. It's media and people like your friend Bernie making a big deal about the loss and questioning where Drink will be. I'm talking to different fans than you are, Keith Adams, because every single person that I know in the last decade who went to Mizzou, except for Wilson, who hates Mizzou and is wearing Texas A&M gear today, every single other person I know who went to Mizzou in the last decade is really hard on the conversation of either Drinkwitz can't take us to the ceiling we want, I'm okay with moving on, or he's raised the floor so much it would be foolish to move away from him. I'm now seeing both of those conversations happening around all the Mizzou fans I know. So it's not just the media. Mizzou fans are kind of up in arms a little bit in either way.
I can tell you that the money people for Mizzou say he's not going anywhere. The people that are actually supporting the program are of the understanding that he has done things. You know, we tend to forget that Barry Odom was the coach right before him. We tend to forget that Mizzou during the 80s and 90s, they had a stretch of 15 out of 17 years where they had losing records, where this was a horrific program. I was just looking. Mizzou, as we mentioned, has had two coaches that have led them to 10-win seasons. Texas A&M had a 10-win season in 1919. And so you go back to Alabama and Texas A&M and Texas and Georgia. Those are schools that literally have a 100-year advantage on Mizzou in terms of championship football. And I do think that there, at the moment, is a ceiling, and the program is still on an upward trajectory, but they aren't where you need to be. And hey, let's just for fun,
because a lot of Mizzou fans, because I think it's a very fair point, but I think a lot of Mizzou fans would argue, but Kurt Cignetti in Indiana, and how that's not, they're going to make the playoff 2 years in a row. And in fairness, I think had the playoff been a thing, the Gary Pinkel probably would have made the playoff 2 years in a row. Yeah. But my point is that people are talking about Kurt Cignetti taking that team to a height that has never been.
Is
to,
that
and
typical
he did it
though? Has that ever happened before?
No, but it's a new era, and Indiana has seized upon the new era and had the success, whereas Mizzou has had the resume ability, beat Georgia, beat Bama, beat Texas A&M. You are in the playoff one of, if not multiple, of the last 4 years, and they've had the chances and they haven't been able to capitalize it. You see it right there. You know, Indiana has a chance to bottle it completely, and they come through. They got to the playoff last year and get their doors blown off, and they come back even better the next year.
Wouldn't you agree? I would hope that you search for Cignetti, okay? You're searching for Kurt Cignetti, and you fire Drinkwitz, and you hire Cignetti, or your version of Cignetti. Don't you think the chances are better that you wind up with like what Florida has had with Muschamp, or the guy they just whacked, or what Florida State has had with Norvell? Aren't the chances much greater of you trying to get the next James Madison coach and winding up with a guy that you have to fire in 3 or 4 years? Seems like there's one Frank Signetti, and Kurt Signetti. Frank was an offensive coordinator for the Rams at the end here, his brother. But it seems to me like there's a much greater chance of you getting a guy that sucks than a guy that winds up being like Kurt Signetti, just based upon what I have observed.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The argument that fans who are a little bit disillusioned would bring is that if Drinkwitz can't win the big game, then why are we rolling the dice with Drinkwitz year after year is a pointless endeavor, because he can't win the big game. He's not going to win the big game. Therefore, we are capped out.
Okay, so
that's what their argument would be.
I would say that he probably misread his quarterback situation this year.
Yeah.
But for anybody that expected Mizzou to beat Texas A&M with a freshman quarterback making his first start, you got to go back to school about football. That ain't going to happen.
But no.
And by the way, I think the record now for SEC quarterbacks making their first start as freshmen in the last in the last 50 years is 0-18, and they've all been blown out.
But take away the result and look at the job that he did coaching the game. Do you think that was a winning? Did he improve Mizzou's chances? Did he?
Let me tell you something about what has happened with football now.
He himself said, "I didn't put my team in the best chances to win that game."
He fell on the sword. Well, I think one thing you'll learn about college football, if you get a chance to, like we do, we're fans with access. You talk to people in and around the sport, and because of all the ancillary things, and by the way, he has to do a better job of delegating what he wants the vision to be. But head coaches don't coach anymore. They should be called managers, because the head coach is spending a ton of time evaluating other teams. They're spending a ton of time dealing with agents. They're spending a ton of time recruiting, and they don't get as much of an opportunity to coach. Remember when Chip Kelly left the head coaching job at UCLA? He said, "I want to coach players." Remember when Jeff Havley left the head coaching job at Boston College to take over as the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator? He said, I just want to coach. These guys that are head coaches now don't have the opportunity to coach. Now, does Drinkwitz need to do a better job of getting people in place to coach? Yes, but to put the coaching aspect of things, he makes the final call on fourth down and stuff like that. But he is primarily a delegator. He's doing the things that Dick Vermeil did as the head coach of the Rams. He's a CEO now. He's not a guy that coaches on a day-to-day basis. And I think another thing that you have to look at, and hey, you can say that I am not being realistic, but there's a reason that the University of Missouri has never won a national championship, or the University of Illinois, or Indiana, for that matter. There are a lot of schools that have never won because they're here. I can tell you exactly why. This is the 1975 top 20. Okay, it's 2025 now. This is the top 20 from 1975. They didn't do a top 25 then. Number 1 was Oklahoma. Number 2 was Alabama. Number 3 was Michigan. Number 4 was Ohio State. Number 5 was USC. Number 6 was Penn State. Number 7 was Nebraska, and they've fallen off since they moved to the Big Ten. Auburn, number 8. They've won a championship in the last decade plus. A&M was number 9. Notre Dame 10. Texas 11. And then you had Michigan.
Come on, Army's going to be in here, aren't they?
No, not 1975. You had Florida in there. You had Arizona in there. You had Tennessee in there. You had Arkansas. So my point is that the Blue Bloods have been the Blue Bloods for a long, long time. And Mizzou has never been a Blue Blood. And we've, I think, had the conversation on this show. The one team that has been able to infiltrate, the one program that has been able to infiltrate the Blue Bloods in the last 50 years, but still hasn't won a championship, is Oregon.
You're 100% correct. But Indiana went out and just signed the Heisman Trophy winner in the transfer portal. It's just,
again, is that the rule or the exception?
I guess it's still the exception. It's still undoubtedly the exception. The amount of programs who have changed their complexion completely, even over the last 5 years, is still a very small group of programs. But it's just that
Have you
know
ever
that
seen anything like what's happened at Indiana?
No.
I have not.
No, but we're talking about a 5-year window. I mean, for this to actually happen over the last few years would have been, there's no other chance over the last 5-year window. So the fact that one program like Indiana has completely turned itself around into a college football playoff contender, the fact that another program like Mizzou has been able to take another step up in their program. I mean, we're seeing Vanderbilt have a big season. How are they doing that? Transfer portal has been a huge part of that. Texas Tech is going to become a potential powerhouse in college football because of the NIL and the transfer portal and things like that.
It helps to have a billionaire setting a record for the amount that the players are being paid.
But I'm saying my point is that was Texas Tech on that list in 75?
No.
And that's my point is that you're right, but it's only been we have a very small sample size to deal with, and we've already seen that good coaching and a solid NIL base can get you to the playoff in Indiana. We've seen that a crap ton of oil money can get you probably into the playoff in Texas Tech, and we've seen that a good coach and NIL money can get you upwards in standards.
So who's going to be the
Mizzou.
guy? Is it going to be Kroenke that gives the $1 billion?
Well, they have I think a lot of people would argue Mizzou has the money, but it's the coaching that isn't taking them to the next level. No one's arguing about the roster building, except for maybe the kicker depth, or
how many kickers do you want to have?
I just maybe not a back, maybe not. I mean, the one now is booting it, but maybe not a true freshman as the backup. Okay. You have the NIL money, you have the roster building, you have wins in the portal and wins in recruiting, and you've pumped up your base there. There's no doubt about that.
So
now the question for a lot of people's criticism comes to on the field, can you now take Mizzou to the next level there?
So you think that Mizzou can hire the next Kurt Signetti? That they should fire Drinkwitz and bring in the next Signetti?
I think that people who want Drinkwitz to walk think that his ceiling has been tapped out because and this is and we can just so
until last year we could have said that about Lane Kiffin, right?
I think there were a lot of people who, there's a long list of times that Lane Kiffin has gotten to the top and completely fallen on his face. So I think a lot of people, would have doubted Lane Kiffin, and that's why I think we just saw the extension come down, and they're buying in because it's Lane Kiffin time for everybody else.
So Kirk Ferentz should have been fired 20 years ago.
Some people would argue that.
PJ Fleck. Brett Bielema. Sure. Bielema should have been fired by Wisconsin, I guess. Well, no, he was going to Rose Bowls.
He was going to Rose Bowls there.
Yeah. I wonder why people think that all of a sudden Missouri should be a blue blood.
People, I don't think they want them to be a blue blood immediately. They're not even discounting the step up that Drinkwitz has taken them to. They're simply asking the question, is based on what we have seen from his coaching in big games, and knowing that especially now with the expansion of the playoff schedule, winning potentially multiple top 25 games is going to be a requirement to get to 10-2 and be a playoff team and so on and so forth. If he can't win the big games, are we just kind of wasting our time with it? Would be the people who want him to walk. I don't think a lot of people would say let him, fire him, but there's some people who wouldn't be bothered if he did walk, because all of the evidence we do have is that right now, with the roster he has, he can't win the big game in conference and arguably out of conference.
So, again, I will ask, did you expect them to beat Texas A&M on Saturday?
I did not know.
Okay. Do you know anybody that
Can I expect them to beat Vanderbilt the 2 weeks prior?
No, Vanderbilt's pretty good as it turns out. But yeah, I thought that they would be in the game. I didn't think that they would be able to contain Pavia like they did. They did as good a job as any team in the country this year at containing Diego Pavia.
Defense has been incredible, but the offense has been underwhelming for parts of the second year in a row.
So
again, you're right. He's more of a game manager for Meal. But are we allowed to add a little extra criticism on him when the offense fails based on his resume and the profile we have of him, and the fact that he's supposed to be a creative play caller, designer?
So which games of the 13 did you not like last year?
Which games of the 13 last year?
Not like 10-3.
Well, one of those games they had to be saved by a 60-yarder. Was that 2 years ago? I'm conflating close Mizzou
That's
losses.
okay. That's
I'm conflating close
So I'm
Mizzou
just
games
wondering
this
what
year.
wins we're complaining about.
I'm not complaining about wins.
Okay.
People out there aren't
Well,
complaining
you
about
just
wins.
said that
They're complaining about losses. They're complaining about the fact that he can't win big games. They're complaining about
So you don't think that
close
they have,
losses to
so
Georgia,
you don't think
the
they've
loss to
ever,
Vanderbilt.
You don't think they've ever won a big game under Eli Drinkwitz?
They haven't won any. They have not won a game against an SEC top 25 team or a team that has finished the season with a winning record in the conference. He is 0-9 in the last 3 years and 0-15 in his 6 years with the Tigers. I think it's fair to throw out the first 3 years because he was rebuilding the program. But the last 3 years, they've been contenders. They've been a few games away, and he's been 0-9 against teams that have finished with a conference record above 500.
I thought that Gary Pinkel maximized the program, and I know there's a lot of people that think that, oh, magically Mizzou's going to turn into a great program, and they're going to be just like Georgia, just like Alabama.
But it's not magically. Because everyone acknowledges that Drinkwitz had those first 3 years, and again, I don't hold those first 3 years against him. I don't care about throw the record from those first 3 years completely out the window. Because to your point, you can't just build in 3 years. But he had those 3 years to build, and he's built on that. There's no doubt about that. It's not about the first 3 years building the program. It's about the execution of the program over the last 2+ years.
Okay, so again, let's just go back to what they have done, what they have failed to do, why their offense has been so bad. Brady Cook played with a bad shoulder in 23, correct?
Yes.
23. And then he got hurt last year, right?
Yeah, he also played with an injury last year too.
So
literally had a foot injury that he came back for the game after he was in the hospital. Came back.
The Auburn game, right?
Yeah.
So we expected the backup quarterback to come in and do what the starting quarterback did, I guess, which is fine. But Gunnar Stockton came in for Georgia, right? After the injury last year. And I think they even went to the CFP, right?
Yeah.
With Gunnar Stockton.
Yes, they did.
So that's where Mizzou needs to be. They need to get to where Alabama and Georgia are now. So the question becomes, how do you get there? And who takes you?
They don't need to get to that level. They need to get to the place where they can steal one from Alabama or Georgia once every 3 years. And the point is that they've been a possession or two away from stealing one from Bama or Georgia for a couple of years now, but they haven't been able to pull it off in that meaningful moment. And that's where, again, people are kind of planting, their staffs a little bit.
Well, again, I think that
is better.
I love the idea of this. I think it's spectacular. But let's go down the road. Okay, so you're going to need money, and
they got money.
They don't have Texas A&M out.
They don't have Texas A&M money.
They don't have that Morgan & Morgan money that's coming into Georgia every day.
World's
largest law firm.
They don't have Georgia. They don't have Texas A&M money.
Texas,
but they have
Oklahoma.
Probably not Texas or Oklahoma. No.
Okay.
But again, they're not. They right now they have all the money to make the moves they need to get the players they need to get. They have the money.
Then why isn't it happening? Is it Drinkwitz's fault?
I think they are getting the players. The consensus based on every portal ranking, NIL ranking, recruiting ranking is they are getting the players. And that's one of the big differences between Drinkwitz and Gary Pinkel. We're talking about them.
Well, I watched the game on Saturday, and I didn't think that the Mizzou offensive and defensive lines were as good of players as what Texas A&M brought to the table.
Texas A&M has the best offensive line in the country potentially. Mizzou defensive line did not look like they got matched up against the best in the country and they didn't do enough.
Does Texas A&M have any money?
Texas A&M's got a lot of oil money.
It seems like they might have
given an engineering school in Texas. I feel like they might talk about that every once in a while.
They paid a guy like $76 million to go away.
They don't coach. Apparently, at Texas A&M, they don't teach you how to drill or anything like that, but they teach you how to find where the oil is, and that's where all the money is.
Here's the thing. And I am old, okay? So I remember Mizzou being awful from basically 1984 until 2001 when Gary Pinkel arrived. And you could even argue 2004. So you could say 20-year period where for the most part they were awful. And so for me, winning is kind of fun when you go 10-3, when you go 11-2, when you are a team that consistently has an opportunity. You know, we were hoping. I thought Mizzou had a great chance this year to have a really special year. I think they were derailed somewhat by injuries, but I actually am enjoying the winning, and I just don't understand why Mizzou fans, rather than enjoying the winning, say, you know what, let's try to get another guy. You know, and I guess it's envy, right? Isn't that one of the 7 deadly sins?
That would be, yes.
Yeah, with next door you've got Curt Cignetti.
Oh, I thought we were gonna list them all off.
No, well, we could.
No, we're good.
But so you want the next Curt Cignetti? Well, tell me who the last Curt Cignetti was, and then we can start to have a conversation.
Gary Pinkel.
Well, people wanted Gary Pinkel fired in 2007.
That was people were dumb for that one.
Yeah, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know why they wanted him fired?
Why?
Because they said he couldn't win a big game.
Yeah, well.
So, you know, and he was losing to Oklahoma, right?
He had the difference there, I believe, is that he could not beat Texas and Oklahoma, but he was beat. When Baylor jumped up, he'd bite their head off. When A&M would jump off, he'd bite their head off. Oklahoma State, same thing. The thing I think people have a problem with Mizzou is that Drinkwitz has lost games against Tennessee and Vanderbilt, and I think that's and maybe those have been the annoying ones as well. Because for me, I think saying, how dare Eli Drinkwitz not win a game against Georgia or Alabama, or even LSU sometimes, although their LSU games haven't been that.
They beat LSU.
Level. Yeah, but that was the year after they won the national championship, and Orgeron was not coaching, or whatever he was doing.
Yeah, Joe Burrow wasn't there.
No, yeah, they'd lost everybody.
Jamar Chase had checked out.
Yeah, they had lost everybody. Yeah, apparently Orgeron was talking to people he shouldn't be talking about if you hear the stories. So it's less the Bama and the Georgia ones and more the other. I guess it is. I mean, and again, for me, and I'm being devil's advocate in a lot of this. You get down to like 3 or 4 games that aren't Alabama or Georgia, but that's, as I said earlier, I think some people say, well, the expectation needs to be that you can bite Alabama or Georgia once in a blue moon. Something I wanted to throw out because I thought this was good, and this is kind of the argument that a lot of Mizzou fans I think are seeing, because McKernan put out the Eli Drinkwitz is 0-9 against teams that finished with winning conference records over the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. It's the last 2 years plus all of this season, obviously, but haven't finished yet. And then Gabe DeArmond on the Twitter tweets was throwing out the other side, which is Mizzou is undefeated against teams that finished with losing conference records over the last 3 years. The only other SEC team that can say that is Georgia. Mm-hmm. So that's why the whole floor and ceiling thing's interesting to me, because clearly he has raised Mizzou's ceiling. They beat everyone they are supposed to beat. But at the same time, there is a factual other side of the coin, which is they can't beat the teams they need to beat to be a playoff team. And that's the next step for Mizzou football. That's the expectation, and not expectation. That's the want of Mizzou football fans. And I think maybe that's something we're dealing with right now. We are differentiating the difference between expectation and want and hope.
And I think you just sometimes have to be careful for what you wish. You know, Alabama fans could not wait to get rid of Gene Stallings, right? In the 90s.
Yep. And
they got Mike DuBose, who after Stallings goes to a national championship and wins. And then they thought 10-3 was a down year. So Gene goes after winning the national championship, it goes 13-0, 9-3-1, 12-1, 8-3, 10-3. And then they get DuBose 4-7, 7-5, have one good year, 10-3, 3-8, gone. Dennis Francione 7-5, 10-3, couldn't wait to get out of there. Shula 4-9, 6-6, 10-2, 6-6 before they bring in Nick Saban. Same thing happened with Texas and Mac Brown. They thought, oh, we could do a lot better than this after he had won the championship in 2005. Has some down years. They get rid of Mac Brown, and then after him, and not that Missouri is at that level, but Missouri is at a certain level, and I think sometimes you have to be reasonably satisfied with the level that you're at and read the room, understand what your place is in the sport that you're in. So here's what happened to Texas after they got rid of Mac Brown.
The good years.
Yeah.
This is the fun times. Yeah. This is when I literally liked college football.
So Brown goes in his last 3 years 8-5, 9-4, 8-5, and they say we aren't happy, so they bring in Charlie Strong, 6-7, 5-7, 5-7. Tom Herman, 7-6. Texas is back, 10-4, 8-5, 7-3 gone, and then they bring in Sark, and here they are. But you get rid of a guy who had won a championship in 05 in Brown because you think, oh, you know what, we aren't where we're supposed to be. I think, and those are good programs, by the way, historically great programs. Here's the thing. I think Missouri is right where they're supposed to be.
I give Anthony.
They're better than the Dregs, but not nearly as good as the Blue Bloods.
Well, and you and Anthony C, and I give Anthony C a lot of crap on the chat line, but he cut perfectly to the quick here. Bottom line is that Mizzou is doomed to sit at the kids' table. The good news is that they can be at the head of the kids' table.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Yep.
But there are Mizzou fans who will not accept that, who say that in this era of college football, that is a losing, complacent mentality.
Well, again, and they are spending money. They are getting players out of the transfer portal. They just haven't reached that point yet. And they obviously did not get lucky in getting Pribula. That was not the answer. They needed a better quarterback, and they needed a better group of offensive linemen. But even still, they're going to wind up with a winning record. They're going to have had, by most Mizzou seasons accounts, a successful Mizzou season. They just aren't going to be a national champion or a college playoff team.
We have Keith Adams who says, are you guys saying that Drink is not a good coach? At no point here did I say that Drinkwitz was not a good coach. And in fairness, the people whose argument I'm trying to represent here, at no point are they saying that Drinkwitz is not a good coach. The facts are telling them that Drinkwitz does not win the big games against the big teams. That is not even an opinion thing. That is just a fact based on the numbers. You can't even argue with that. That's not an opinion. How you frame it and where you go from there, that's going to be an opinion. And people's opinion is that because he can't win the big game, and because they see Anthony C's comment from earlier as a losing, complacent mentality, they want to roll the dice. And I think most people are smart to understand that it is a dice roll and try to go for a coach who potentially can win the big game and can get Mizzou over the hump. Because if the infrastructure is there, you're about to have a stadium that's going to be one of the best in the country. You do have the money. Again, you don't have oil money. You got a pretty good amount of money. Facilities are some of the tops in the country, so on and so forth. So if you have all the infrastructure, if you have everything else other than the coach, people want to take the risk, and I disagree with that. I think it's a dumb risk, and risking the new floor that has been reestablished of where Mizzou football is in the hierarchy to just take shots at shooting the moon. This is why I don't play roulette. Because I don't like the idea of putting all my money on one number. And that's what this would feel like if you're the Tigers.
So 2023, University of Missouri. So the win against 15th ranked Kansas was not a big win.
This is a really good chat from Samuel Howe. The adult table went from 4 chairs to 12 though. And Mizzou isn't going to move to the adult table. And that's another thing I think that's going to piss off Mizzou fans. I think Samuel Howe's 100% correct in that analogy.
Yep. The win over K-State was not a big win. They don't win. That wasn't a big game. In
2023?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that delay of game penalty is a bad coaching moment. Yes, he gets bailed out by Mevis. But the process of how you get to wins matters and losses matters. Okay. I'm okay with good win. I'm okay with calling a good loss.
Here's the question. Was it a big win?
It was a big win.
Okay. When they beat 24th ranked Kentucky 38-21 at Kentucky, was that a big win?
What did Kentucky finish that year at? They
were 24th when Mizzou played them.
When they played them, yeah. But I'm pretty sure I think that's another one that finished.
Was it a big win?
In the moment, it was a solid win.
Okay. Missouri over South Carolina that year, 34-12. Was that a big win?
That was a good win.
And then they lost to Georgia. They went to they played Tennessee at Faurot Field. They beat Tennessee 36-7 after Tennessee had put up 65 on them the two previous years. Was
big win.
Any good?
You could argue that's the second biggest win in Drinkwitz's Mizzou career.
How about the game against Florida?
That was huge.
33-31.
In the moment, that was huge. But I feel like that Florida team didn't finish. Where did that Florida team finish? 2023, right?
But you beat Florida.
Yeah, but they finished 5-7 that year.
So it wasn't a big win. A loss would have been the same as a win.
No, but is beating a team that finishes under 500 a big win in college football?
I thought it was a pretty big win at the time. I'm not going to retroactively change my emotion about it.
Yeah, but how Florida ends up being as a team that year? Did they have quarterbacks get hurt or something like that? I'm blanking on that right now. But like how Florida finishes as a team, I mean, they have Graham Mertz the entire time, no big quarterback injuries. I feel like that's
okay.
Yeah, you can say it's in retrospect or hindsight's 2020, but in the moment,
beating Florida was a meaningless win.
I'm not saying it's meaningless, but I'm not going to call it a big win. Okay. I'm not going to call beating a team that finishes under 500 a big win. I just don't think you can classify it.
Maybe one of the reasons they finished under 500 is because you beat them.
Well, it would have made them 6-6. They would have been a 500 team.
Okay. Was beating 24th ranked and undefeated Boston College last year a big win?
No, Boston College is a bad team now. I mean, Bill O'Brien is
last year.
They weren't very good last year either.
So beating the 24th ranked team in the country is not a big win. Got it. Okay. Totally understand.
But this is why you shouldn't have rankings in this is why you shouldn't have rankings in the beginning of the season,
why
because
teams drop in rankings?
You get because they lose
football. How do teams drop in rankings?
Because they lose football games. Oh no, this is bad. This is bad. I know that's good. I like that. I certainly couldn't. They went 7-6.
So Missouri, in the last 6 years, has had 0 big wins. Is what you're telling me?
They've had 0 wins.
0 big wins.
No, I'll ask the question to you.
So they might as well go winless.
Do you think you can classify wins against teams that finish below 500 in their conference schedule as a big win?
Yep.
I would just disagree that you can call them solid wins. I just think
you beat Tennessee, a good win.
But a big win has to, for me, in the way that the CFP is looked at. A big win has to be a win that, in my opinion, when we're making those graphics on Saturday morning, it's the teams that I was putting in under big wins for teams were teams that were top 25 teams, above 500 teams, maybe somebody that felt.
Now you're telling me that a top 25 win isn't big, though.
But it has to be a top 25 win after the season's played out, because beating somebody who's
so then
top
why are we talking about big wins now that he hasn't won a big game?
Because
the season hasn't played out.
Because this is all we have to talk about for this season, and we can't have this. I don't want to wait 4 more weeks to have this conversation. Okay. We can have a part of this conversation now, when we can look at where the teams are ranked on now. Yes, if things change, although I'm trying to think. You know, if Texas A&M loses their next 3 games in a row, or if Vanderbilt wins all their games, or if they beat OU, who beats Alabama, things will change. But in the moment, this is what I have. And that's all I can really argue off of. And so my point is just that beating a Boston College team that finishes 7-6 in a weak ACC in week 2 of that season, where they finished 7-6, I don't care that they're ranked 23 in the moment. They clearly weren't a top team. And the question here is,
there's no reason then to play.
No, I didn't say
Power
that.
5.
I didn't say that.
Right? Because if it doesn't make any difference if a team is any good when you play them, then why play them?
Because
why not just schedule SEMO every year?
You do for 3 of your 4 games, and you're not going to be able to anymore. But you do for 3 of your 4 games because you want to make sure that you're bowl eligible and you get that $500,000 bonus or whatever it is, because it's cash in your pocket.
I
would say I would love that to be a top 25 game.
Here's the thing: Mizzou, nobody has ever had a big win when they beat Missouri.
Nobody has ever had a big win when they beat Missouri. Well, it depends. How many times? I mean, Missouri's finished.
Missouri's not good enough.
No, because Missouri's finished over 500 in their conference. How many times in the last few seasons? Let me see.
Well, but those were meaningless wins, though.
They weren't meaningless. I mean, Missouri, the last 2 years, Missouri's a good win in my opinion, because Missouri the last 2 years is
not.
Missouri's the last 2 years is 5-3 and 6-2. If you beat Mizzou the last 2 years of the SEC schedule, that's a solid win.
But Missouri, those teams weren't ranked and they didn't finish with winning records in their conference. So how could they be good wins? Mizzou beat dregs. So how could you have a big win against Missouri?
Because Mizzou themselves finished above 500.
You're telling me they aren't good. Why'd they finish over 500? Because they were beating teams that had losing records.
So my point is, if Mizzou can't, if a team then on Mizzou's schedule is even worse than that, then I'm definitely not going to call it a big win.
So does Mizzou suck or not?
No, I'm not saying Mizzou sucks. No, I'm saying Mizzou is mediocre or just above the average, or just above the line.
6-2 in the conference in the SEC is mediocre.
That's not where they're going to finish this year.
But the last 2 years.
No. Last year they were a 10-win team. That's a great team.
But I'm being told that Drinkwitz can't win big games.
Yes, because
they're not good.
Because by my we're disagreeing now on the qualification of what a big game is.
Okay,
and you're saying that
you go 6-2 in the SEC, and there are no big wins among those 6 in the SEC.
Last season they won. So last season they won 6 games in the SEC, and those 6 wins were Vanderbilt, Auburn, Oklahoma, Mississippi State, Arkansas, and where am I missing one? Vanderbilt, Auburn, Oklahoma, Mississippi State, Arkansas. I said Auburn. I don't know how I'm missing one, but I am. I'm going insane right now. Because they lost to South Carolina, Alabama, and Texas A&M. Those are the 8 games. So they won. So they 5. I mean, none of those are standout wins from last year. No.
So why are we even playing? Why are we even going to Faurot Field?
Because if they win, I know some of these games aren't at Faurot Field. He could break the mold. He could shock us. He could actually win the game. He could not take, he could, not trip over himself with the play calling or not.
He's not calling plays
or with the game plan. I mean, or he could not trip over himself with the fake punt call. I'm sure that's a criticism people have, is that every coach should be omniscient and they should know when every fake punt call is coming.
So
if they're not, and if they don't know,
I think what Mizzou needs
damn them to hell.
They need to find themselves the next Luke Fickell.
It could go so bad if Drink walks. If Drink and again,
fire him.
They shouldn't fire him. But if Drink walks, it could go so bad so fast for the Tigers. That's the thing that some fans is crazy to me. But I think there's some fans who say, you know what? To your point, I would rather. Oh, I don't know if that's true. Let me think about this one for a second. How many fans would rather them be kind of irrelevant? You know what, Auburn. I was thinking about this yesterday. Auburn's a funny program because they're either just terrible or they're putting together a national championship caliber team. There seems to be like no middle ground for Auburn. And I kind of wanted to ask Mizzou fans, like, which would you rather have? Would you rather consistently be an 8, 9, or 10 win team, or would you rather be 6 or 11? Like, which one do you want? Like, because I feel like a lot of Mizzou fans say they want to be 6 and 11. I want to either go to the national championship or I want to know early that I probably don't need to buy into this team. But I feel like the fans who would answer that are lying to themselves, and they do just want 8, 9, 10 wins every year. I think you're correct in that this is a foolish overall way to think, or just a foolish risk for the program to take, and they probably won't. But fans, I think, can easily say to themselves, I'd rather take the side of CFP or bust. But I think that's, to your point, it's a short-sighted way to look at it.
And fortunately, the adults in the room are actually pretty rational, and they are not going to get rid of Eli Drinkwitz. And I think they understand what they have, that getting 10 and 11 win seasons in the SEC is actually pretty good. It's not terrible. And I think that those people understand the history of the program. They understand where the program is. They understand the history of other programs and where they are. And they get that, hey, it's hard. It is hard to win in the SEC. It's kind of like the same, your attitude, if you feel that way, not all of your attitudes, but if you feel that way, it's kind of like the people at Arkansas or A&M or Auburn that kept firing coaches thinking they were going to beat Nick Saban. Because it just wasn't going to happen. And sometimes you have to accept reality.
Unless you strike fighting.
And the reality of the Mizzou situation is that based on history, and history can be changed. We're seeing that right now with Indiana, aren't we? That's what you want to be, is Indiana. But based on Mizzou's history, it's going to be a pretty steep hill to consistently beat Georgia, Alabama, LSU, even Florida. For what they've done against Florida over the years, it's actually pretty good. Tennessee, this is a hard conference to win in, with a lot of teams that have won a lot of championships Urban Meyer won a couple of championships at Florida. Steve Spurrier won a championship in maybe your lifetime, 1998. Tennessee won a national championship with T. Martin at quarterback. And you look at the Mizzou program, there are a group of schools, like 5 in the conference, that have never even been to a conference championship game, that have been in a hell of a lot longer.
Texas A&M is on that
Missouri
list.
has.
Texas A&M is on that list.
Yeah, and they've been in the exact same amount of time. But Ole Miss has never been in an SEC championship game. I think Mississippi State's been in 1. South Carolina might have been in 1 or 2. But yeah, there's a group that has obviously Oklahoma and Texas haven't been there yet, but they haven't had time to do so. Well, no, Texas was last year.
Texas wasn't last year.
So, but my point is that this is the most historical conference in college football, and it's hard to win in.
Just means more here. Safari Elvis 36 says, why pay a coach all this money if he can't win one single big game? And by the way, I believe Safari Elvis is following my definition.
Never won one single big game. Not
Let's take away one big game. Why pay a coach all that money if he can't win one game against a team that finishes above 500 in conference play?
So that's a great question, and I think you got to get a new coach, and a cheaper one too, so that that coach, when he doesn't win the games against teams that finish with a winning record in conference play, so that you're only paying him like $100,000 a year. I think that is the play.
I like this from High Revelation. Did Randy just have a real mic drop?
Yeah, literally. Yeah, I did.
Uncle saying rankings shouldn't start until week 5 or 6. And then we also have they're talking about the Vegas line, which didn't really Keith Adams is saying it shifted a lot. Vandy beating Alabama was a big win. Beating Mizzou is never a big win. I think Samuel Howe's being a little tongue-in-cheek there. Because the SEC gives us the conference schedule. I'm confused. If Mizzou are a top 25 team and you beat them, that's not a big win. So that means other teams that are in the top 25 that are getting beat are big wins. Yeah, we got a little bit of a pretzel there.
That's my thing is, so nobody ever gets a big win against Mizzou.
Jam Jones, excuse me. Beat LSU, a ranked South Carolina, a ranked K-State, a ranked Tennessee, a ranked OSU, Iowa. Not good now because of dog shit special teams, predictable play calling on offense, and shitty game management. Well, that's at least 2 of the 3 things that Drinkwitz has some oversight over. And again, my thing about the LSU team is it was not a good LSU team they beat. The South Carolina win was solid. The K-State win was solid. But again, there's a huge terrible, marring, just bad coaching job in the K-State game that I can't not think about. The Tennessee one's legitimate.
So I don't as a loss. Then.
I don't care about the OSU win. I don't care about that one anymore.
Why?
Because they were playing their second string. Like I think that's like.
So you don't think Ohio State has any depth?
No, I just don't.
Are you paying attention?
No, I'm. Charlie Marlowe's in my head about this one, and he's convinced me that the Ohio State team didn't give a shit about that game. And
who cares? I kind of that's their problem.
It's easy to beat a team when they don't give a shit.
Who was their coach? Ryan Day, right?
Was it Ryan Day? Yes, it would have been Ryan Day. I was like, is this a trick question?
So, you know what? They don't care about it because they lost. They say, oh, well, if we would have had our guys, you know what? You had guys. If you're Ohio State, you're bringing 5 stars off the bench. All right. If your guy's not there, you got another 5-star. Hell, Ohio State won a national championship with their 3rd string quarterback.
It's true, but when it changes,
but.
I'm just saying it's not the same Ohio State team that got that ranking. Can we all agree on that fact?
Well, yeah, they had different players, but did Mizzou win the game?
They did.
And was it Ohio? Did they still have the stupid Buckeyes on the helmet?
You don't like the little?
They're stupid.
You don't like the little things you give for tackles?
Yeah, and was that Bozo Day on the sideline that they should fire, by the way, because he can't beat Michigan?
I think it was Ryan Day.
Yes, it was. So come on. I mean, just because Ohio State says, well, it wasn't a big deal because they lost the game. If they win the game, it's a big deal. I guarantee you that he would be Charlie Marlowe. He would be chattering up a storm. He would have,
because his second string would have beat. They would have his second string would have beat Mizzou. That
but you know what?
Something to chatter.
Ohio State's second string. Shame on them that they couldn't beat the little old Missouri. Because Ohio State's second string is pretty damn good.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, apparently
every year it's pretty good.
The only point though, in that he brought up all the other games that you mentioned, is that my only point is that we can all agree though that those teams who they beat early in the first 3 weeks who would fall apart with losses late in the season, and that Ohio State team, None of those teams, when they beat them, are the team that got the ranking. Essentially, is what I'm saying.
So, well, you and
That's
I have
all
a
I mean.
fundamental disagreement because I don't think there's any such thing as a bad win.
There's a thing as a bad win.
Yeah, you think the K-State win was a bad win. You think the Ohio State win was a bad win.
I don't think they're bad wins.
I don't think there's any such thing as a bad win.
I don't think they're bad wins. They're just wins that don't move the needle at all.
Well,
I just refuse to call them good wins.
If you win 10 of them
Or big
you
wins.
win 11 of them in
wins.
one season, that's pretty good, I think.
They're good wins, but I mean, I just think the question about Drink with the people who doubt him is about beating teams that throughout a 12-game schedule win 8+ games.
You know,
and the bottom line is that at the end, when all the dominoes have fallen, Drinkwitz does not beat winning teams.
So we used to
that's what people are criticizing.
We used to have a hockey coach here for about 8 years. And people said, man, guy can't win a big game. People were thrilled when he got fired. People were thrilled when this guy got whacked.
I know this story. I feel like this is going to go well for the Blues.
Well, not really.
Oh.
So he winds up going to Colorado, gets whacked there, and then he winds up with the Chicago Blackhawks of all teams. And he wound up winning 3 Stanley Cups. The guy that couldn't win a big game for the St. Louis Blues, Joel Quenneville, wound up winning 3 Stanley Cups. And, oh, by the way, has an Anaheim team right now that's won 6 in a row and is in first place in their division. Sometimes it's not the Jimmy or not the X's and the O's, but the Jimmies and the Joes. And maybe Matt Zollers just wasn't ready to beat Texas A&M on Saturday.
Well, this isn't just about the Texas A&M. I think you'll find if you listen to this argument, we haven't mentioned the Texas A&M game that often. We've mentioned a lot of other games across his career, which I commend us. I think this is not a conversation about what happened.
So like the Alabama
only
game,
on
the
Saturday
Alabama
night.
game last year at Alabama. Is that one we're talking about? When that was the game that Brady Cook got hurt. So is that one we're talking about? So should that backup quarterback, Drew Pine, should he have won that game in Alabama?
No, and again, like I said earlier, if I was just arguing this from my point of view, I would not be talking about Alabama or Georgia games, because I think that we're talking about expectations. I understand the people who back in 2015 said you have to be better than South Carolina. I understand the people now who say you have to be better than Tennessee or Vanderbilt. The people who say
Vanderbilt's pretty darn good.
Yes, but but when you talk about infrastructure and conversations we were just having, blue bloods and things like that, they are on the same level. They are not past you. So the expectation, it's fine in my opinion for Mizzou fans. I'm not saying you have to pass your expectation to my sieve, but I think it's reasonable for Mizzou fans to have an expectation to be better than those programs. Georgia and Bama is the one where I put a hard line. I understand even A&M with all their money, but I understand Mizzou fans who think you should be able to play with A&M because they've never played an SEC championship game, so on and so forth.
So the thing is, Missouri. So Vanderbilt's not allowed to get any better.
No,
is that the point?
I think Vanderbilt helps the argument, and that it's clear that you can continue to rise up, and maybe this ceiling that we're seeing with Mizzou is a little bit more artificial.
What's Missouri's
than we
record
think.
Against Vanderbilt in the last 6 years?
I imagine it's probably 4-1, maybe 3-2. It's got to be 4-1.
Okay. So they
lost. I don't know if they played. Did they play every? They might not have played every.
They did in the East, yeah.
Did they play every single year? Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know if they skipped here. I was just kind of assuming they might have skipped one year. So back to 2020. Is that the last 5? That'd be the last. So back to 2020. They're 5-1.
Drinkwitz is 5-1 against them.
Yes. 2, 4. Yeah, 5-1 against them.
I don't know.
But when it came down to beating them to keep yourself in the conversation for the college football playoff, he didn't win. When he actually went up against this version of Vanderbilt that's going to potentially be in the playoff, they slipped up.
And again,
last year Vanderbilt wasn't a ranked team and they beat them by 3. This year Vanderbilt's a ranked team. They're potentially in the college football playoff. So you lost to them by a touchdown.
Basically, we're just picking and choosing then who they should beat and what years. Basically, that's what we're doing.
No, I haven't really moved my level.
So the
level of discussion we talked about
last year Vanderbilt was good and they beat them.
No. Vanderbilt was a solid team. What did they finish at last year? Vanderbilt in 2024. They finished 7-6. They were above 500, but they weren't a great team last year. Diego Pavia had a big season and they were on the up and up, but they weren't. That 23. Yeah, it was 2024. Vanderbilt. Sorry, I'm jumping around here. Yeah, it was 2024 Vanderbilt. They were 7-6. And so my point, the only argument I'm making here is from the 0-9 against teams who finished the season above 500 in conference play. That or a win over a team that finishes in the top 25. One of those two things, and he's winless in both of those accounts. That's what we're talking about. Or I guess the top 25 one I think was the SEC teams.
If
just that's for my level.
So
that's the line.
If Kevin Coleman is 24 inches closer to the goal line, then we don't even have this conversation. At Vandy,
yeah.
We're talking 24 inches over 6 years.
I would venture that a lot of people would still be having a similar conversation because it would be now that one would certainly change things.
So people are just looking for reasons to be outraged about a coach that has done great things with the program. You know what?
People are picking at the margins. There's no doubt about it. People are picking at the margins.
So you know what? You should just go back to the Barry Odom years.
See, and that's the thing is I don't want that all or nothing for Mizzou. I think that'd be bad for Mizzou. The fact that they can consistently win 8 to 10 games every year, I think is a great base to keep on building and letting and if Drink leaves, they're not the next guy who walks in isn't just going to be able to walk into that and make that happen every year like Drinkwitz has been the last few years. Yeah, he has slip-ups, but he's built the infrastructure. He's bringing in money. That's how the stadium's happening. I understand the criticisms because the facts are there. But to your point, I think there are some people playing a little fast and loose with the statistics. That's why Gabe DeArmond responded with the other one. It's like, yeah, you can complain about not beating the big teams, but you can also look at how every other team has slipped up and lost to a crap SEC team at least 1 point in the last 3 years, except for Georgia.
Well, the problem is
Mizzou.
There are no crap SEC teams.
And that's the thing is they're hard football games, and Mizzou's the only one other than Georgia who has never even lost, who don't have any bad losses. To your point, we talk about big wins, good wins, bad losses. There's no such thing as a bad win, whatever. The bottom line here is we can all agree he has no bad losses from the perspective of losing badly to or losing to a losing team. And that is not something that even Gary Pinkel would say. Gary Pinkel would lay an egg every year after having a big win or two. So to that point, there is obviously boons and flowers to give out to the Drinkwitz era. There's no doubt about that.
Here's a program that is basically Mizzou. And if you just look at their history in the SEC, South Carolina and Mizzou, very similar programs, although the Will Muschamp error was not great. But they were supposed to be really good this year. They had Lenora Sellers. He was going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate. They had a terrific offense. Shane Beamer was the new star. They're 3-6 and 1-6 in the conference. After going 9-4 and 5-3 last year. Remember, they beat Mizzou because Mizzou didn't make a tackle in that game. I don't think Eli Drinkwitz had anything to do, by the way, with that missed tackle at South Carolina last year, where they were a ranked team and they wound up going to the Citrus Bowl. See, there's another one. If a guy makes a tackle in a game against South Carolina, Mizzou wins the game.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So it's there's just a lot to go. You know what? There's also a lot of fun on the way December 1st in the state of Missouri because DraftKings Sportsbook is coming soon. And new Missouri customers can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And when we go live, place a $5 bet to unlock $300 in bonus bets. Starting November 17th, you can create your DraftKings Sportsbook account in Missouri and get ready for launch day on December 1st. DraftKings Sportsbook brings everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning-fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when we officially go live in Missouri, you'll be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions. Safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live December 1st in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
One other quick point about Mizzou. I don't think that the last couple of years have been mediocre. I think a lot of people think that when you don't win a national championship, it's a problem with society that we have, that you're either awesome or you're terrible, and people fail to see gray. They don't understand that 11-2, 10-3 is well above average. So they think, oh, well, that's mediocre. Well, no, it's not mediocre. 10-3 or 11-2 is really, really good. And there's this thing. Okay, it's got to be black or it's got to be white. We're so polarized. No, there's such thing as gray in the middle. You can be really, really good and not be great, or you can be mediocre, which mediocre by definition, when you have a 12-game schedule, that's 6-6. Then you go to a bowl game and you're either 7-6 or 6-7. That is mediocrity. 10-3, 11-2, really, really good. Not great, not championship, but really, really good. And I have no problem with my team being really, really good.
I think that's fair.
All right, the Blues. So I was at the game the other night, turned to the guy next to me, and I said, I don't want to be a jinx here, but Blues are up 3-2 after Kyrou had scored. I said, I don't want to be a jinx here, but this might be 2 in a row. And then obviously the Chandler Stevenson goal with 2 seconds left. It was 0.5 on the clock, but they put 1.9 back on the clock. And then the Blues lose in overtime. And so I jinxed them, and I apologize to all Blues fans for my way ahead of the game suggestion that we could win 2 in a row.
How dare you, Randy, expect that they can win a game when they were up 3-2 with 11 seconds left at the stoppage.
But you know what? And I know that they complained about and they were asked about it, so they're going to answer. I have no problem with that. But talking about the goalie interference, you never should have been at that point, because you dominated the first period, you're up 2-0, then you get dominated in the second period. Unacceptable. And then it's 2-2, and then Kyrou scores. And then when they pulled the goalie with 2.5 minutes left, the Blues had 3 separate chances to put the puck in the empty net and didn't take advantage of them. And that loss is not on the officials. That loss is on the St. Louis Blues. And the Blues should have won that game. All their fault.
Yeah, just disappointing. Waste of point. You get one going overtime.
Calgary in town tomorrow.
Completely wasted points. Right now, it looks like the shift we're going to get is that Bukestad's going to hit the bench. Sundqvist is going to jump back in.
All right.
I love the move. I mean, he had some bad penalties, but he was really playing a really solid game this season, and so I like the shift there.
So he comes home.
I'm still think, and it might be harsh. Still think maybe benching a different member of the top 6 should be a move
89?
that's used. Yeah, probably. By the way,
invisible, isn't he?
Apparently Montgomery says that he's doing the right defensive things, but then again I'll trust Montgomery over this, but I'll just point it out that I'm seeing it when the analytics sites put out the player cards and the breakdowns of the Blues. Not seeing anything that Booch is doing in like plus play defensively, and so Monty says it. The numbers don't say it. I'll agree, especially in defensive, because defensive analytics and metrics are always screwy. I'll go with Monty. Maybe that's why he's keeping him in, but for me, I mean, listen, we talked about it multiple times already. You look at the Drew Bannister record last year; they have to go 4-2 over their next 6 games to match what Drew Bannister did last year for the Blues. And then from there, they got to play a lot of good hockey over December and January to make sure they're not behind the 8 ball where they were to need the run last season.
If the Blues can beat Calgary tomorrow, and the Blues have the 2nd worst record in the league, Calgary has the worst record in the league. Blues have 13 points. Calgary has 10. But if the Blues win the game and the teams above them don't win, they will pass Nashville and Buffalo and Columbus, and they will tie the Panthers, the Caps, and to be within a point of the Oilers. So the 2 Stanley Cup finalists from last year, the Blues can be right there in company with them if they can just win tomorrow.
Oilers got their teeth ripped out by the Avalanche.
Oh yeah,
That was insane.
yeah. The Avalanche are kind of a they're a dentist.
Yeah, there you go. I like, there we go.
Yep.
Keep rolling with it.
And Colorado, by the way, 10, 1, and 5 for 25 points so far through 16 games. Anaheim, we mentioned them with their 9-1 in their last 10, and they've won 7 in a row. And they have this Joel Quenneville, man. He can coach. Second best record in the league. Anaheim Ducks.
J.M. Jones says Blues suck, Cards sucks, football is all we had left. But Samuel Howe swoops in. You're correct, because we could be talking basketball. It's a confusing night in Randy Karraker's head tonight as the Billikens face off against the Lindenwood Lions.
I'm not confused at all.
No, you're not.
So go Billikens.
Oh,
What's the line on this sucker? That's what I want to.
What was it?
If we can, if we
24
can cover,
and a half.
if we can cover, we being the Lions, if we can cover, I'm happy either way. I would debate it actually between wearing this pullover or a Billiken pullover, and I decided to go with this one. And so yeah, if we can cover that 24 and a half, I'm a happy guy. Who does Rammer broadcast for tonight?
He's broadcasting for the Billikens.
Okay,
yeah.
Because he also does Lindenwood games.
He does. I think that's just kind of a nice, happy coincidence for everybody involved.
And by the way, Earl too. Rammer and Earl both.
Yeah, and so I wonder. I know Lindenwood's sending a crew. I wonder if it'll be a full 2-man crew, or if there's maybe just like one guy that they have to do the backup. So I wonder who's doing the Lindenwood crew.
Might be my boy Ethan Hannaford.
I would love it if it's Ethan Hannaford.
So that'd be great.
He would not. I will find a way to manufacture a spitball throwing mechanism, and I will mess with him if he's calling the game.
Good. Yeah, you need to.
So he better. I hope it's not him. I kind of hope it is, though. That'd be awesome for our boy Ethan Hannaford. We'd love him here.
One NFL note: Brian Daboll fired by the New York Football Giants today, and I got a word. I guess, and I had read in the story that John Mara is he's got cancer, and he's dealing with it, but not doing well apparently. And so that was one of the reasons that they didn't fire Joe Shane, their general manager, is because they want to have somebody kind of to oversee the football side in the event that John Mara is not there for them.
Also, you kind of want to tether like some connection to Jackson Dart to the front office and the decision-making process. You don't want to, because now you have Joe Shane at least has a head coach, and you have some connections like this. Yeah. Obviously, Jackson Dart's a really good quarterback. Not like there shouldn't be a lot of question marks around him, but I think it makes sense. Joe Shane's obviously made some colossal mistakes.
Would they be stupid enough to hire Bill Belichick?
No.
Okay. So he would love to have that job.
I think if he had just waited,
maybe
if he hadn't got a little antsy and taken the North Carolina job, he was just sitting at home right now, working as a consultant for 3 different teams or something like that.
Hanging with Jordan.
Yeah, hanging with Jordan. I think maybe he'd be in line, but now with everything that's happened, probably not.
Apparently, it's going to be an attractive job in part because of Jackson Dart, but I wonder who they are intrigued by. And I wonder, because the Giants now, since Tom Coughlin left, they've only hired assistant coaches. Coughlin was the last guy they hired with head coaching experience, and he obviously won a couple of Super Bowls with them. I wonder if they go out and try to find a guy that has head coaching experience, or if they'll go back to the offensive or defensive coordinator well. Or maybe try to steal somebody from a team.
I think you would probably go. I mean, if you can, you get a young offensive coordinator in there. That just seems to be the smart move.
Yeah, could be. Could get the next Shane Steichen.
Yeah, Canales.
A guy with experience, Brian Callahan.
There's a good one. I like that.
How about Matt Nagy?
No, I don't think I want him around my young quarterback. He doesn't have a great track record, doesn't he?
He took Mitch Trubisky to the playoffs twice.
That's true. Okay,
and he was there when they developed Mahomes.
He was there. That's true. That's a good.
And he's back now. So he's done okay with young quarterbacks.
They went 11-3 that year. Oh my God. 24-12 for Mitch Trubisky. The next year they go 8-7. Trubisky regresses to 17-10. Interception ratio.
So who else is out there? The guy that
it's pretty good.
You could get Rich Bisaccia. You could get Josh McDaniels. Who was the Vegas coach last year?
Antonio Pierce.
Oh yeah, Antonio Pierce. You could get him. Former Giant player, star
Rich Bisaccia. Oh, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. So
I think LeVar Arrington's a coach too somewhere.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, Mike McCarthy is apparently one of the favorites.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. What the hell is he doing right now?
Nothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he would have taken a job last year.
He's a consultant for somebody.
Yeah. So yeah, there are guys out there. So
I think who's been taking some beautiful play action deep shots. Mike McCarthy, are you working for the Seattle Seahawks right now? Let me know.
Might be.
I feel like that'd be one right now off the top of my head that I'm like, I feel like that's an offense that I could see him giving some insight into with the way they're taking the top off.
I got a guy for you.
Okay.
How about Cliff Kingsbury?
Yeah. Okay.
Cliffy. And then
because now he's going to get a running quarterback who isn't tiny.
And then he could get the tiny guy, the little fella,
As a backup?
as his backup. Yeah. He's available.
Maybe switch him to wide receiver?
Oh, that'd be an interesting thought. That is Matthew. Wilson got us on the air, and we appreciate you being a part of the Randy Karraker Show here on STL Sports Central. Have a great evening, and we will see you tomorrow. That was entertaining.